Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I always like to introduce this wonderful team that God has provided me. I'll start with my faithful assistant, Faith, who has been my assistant since the day she was born. She would sit up on the podium while I did announcements as soon as she could sit up. I shouldn't say the day you were born. You had to be able to sit up because I had to be able to just put a hand on you and be able to whatever. But she helped her dad at the sound booth when she was born. So she really has been my assistant all along. And then about 5 years ago became my official assistant, and she's having issues with sore throat today, so she won't be singing. We are going to be doing an actual video of Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver, because that's the song we were going to sing anyway, and she has given us permission, so hopefully they won't mute us since we know we have permission for it. Anyway. All right, so they've hidden things from me again. Maybe it's in here. Yeah, it's there. Okay. And then, she's behind the scenes doing everything. So when you say hi, good morning, hello, she's the one that answers you. And then I always look back just to make sure, but usually she's right on target because she knows me better than I know myself. So thank you for being here. We love you.
Thank you.
And the wise and powerful Oz, my partner in crime, who's been with me since 1998, basically. First baby practitioner, took all of his training with me except for one class at Mile High, and was my board president for many, many years until he moved to Florida. And we lost the ability to have him be our practitioner of service until we got the software like 2 years ago. So I'm so happy to have him with me. He is our practitioner of the day, meaning he prays us in, he prays us out, and he's available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. And I'll tell you more about that later. But welcome, Oz. Thank you so much for being here. We love you. All right. And then I always like to acknowledge our adjunct music team, which is Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver and Karen Drucker, who have provided us with the music to be able to do a real service here on Sundays instead of me just being a talking head for an hour. So we're really blessed to be able to use these ladies' songs. And then there's Albertina Giuffre, who was our singer from like 2000, clear up until, just right before the pandemic, I think it was, or right after the pandemic, when she needed a break. And so we call her back for special events when Faith needs a break, because, Faith does need a break here and there. She's out on her own. She's got a full-time job. She goes to school full-time, and she serves the church. So we really appreciate her for that. All right. Today's topic is back to basics. We always try to do back to basics in January. So today's topic is the thing itself. And that's all I'm going to say for now. And then there is a watch party button. So if you have friends that you would like to introduce to this philosophy, or even if you just get together with friends and talk about it all the time, you can hit that watch party button and invite all your friends to watch and be able to converse with them back and forth. And you can't bother anybody, right? Because it's all private. And if you're here, please say hi, hello, good morning, however you want to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see who's here. With this software, I just get a number. I don't get who's here. So it's nice to be able to know who is joining in. If you're here visiting later, just say hi, just to let me know you stopped by. All right. I'd like to invite you now to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
The presence of God. For God, as we conceive of it, is all there is. The Creator and the creation. God is all powerful, and God is everywhere and eternal. If all these things are true, logically, it follows that God must be right here, right now, in everything as everything. And its force is what animates the planets to move and the blood to pump within your body. Every single bit of it is running without our conscious effort, for it is running through the power of God. And those things that we are conscious of steer this force and animate this force. And that is how we use it. I know that this is a perfection that is always possible in each and every moment of everyone's life. I know that God is right here with me right now, and it is also with you, wherever you are, whenever you are. For God is so high you can't get over it, and so low you can't get under it. So I know that we are blessed and surrounded in this ocean of God, and I allow the service to go forth with that feeling. I know that this is good and very good, and I give thanks, and I let it be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. If you know the words to this next song, sing it loud and sing it proud, because you can't bother anybody. It is a good reminder of how we are all connected. So if you don't know the words, learn them, because this is one of Reverend Ferry Elaine Silver's, and it is perfect for reminding us that we are connected by God, through God, as God.
We are all one, we are all one, we are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing, for God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I receive, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one, we are all one, we are all one in it. Yes, we are all one, we are all one, we are all one in it.
Yes, we are all one in it. So if you're here, please say hi, good morning, hello, however you want to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out there and see the shining faces of everybody, and I know who's here. With this software, I just get a number. I don't get to see who's here. So I really appreciate being able to know. And if you just stop by later to watch this, please say hi, just to drop me a note, let me know you were here. If you like something that happens in the service, whether it's something I say or Oz prays or something in the music, use that like button, that thumbs up button. If you love something, send us hearts. We love to get love. And if something strikes you as really powerful, by all means, use the wow button. That feedback is really important to us to let us know that we're on target with what we're saying. So we really appreciate it. So without further ado, I'm going to play the official Elaine Silver video. Well, it's not a video, it's an audio with a picture, but you get to see Elaine Silver. So here we go. Okay, well, that was a good try. Apparently, we are not allowed to play anything off of YouTube.
Do you want me to try?
Yeah, why don't you try and see if it'll go?
What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? Reuniting with the source, conscious of the sacred course, miracles abounding every day. Trusting faith to pave the way. Trusting faith to pave the way. What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? Awareness in our consciousness, using thought to bring success, manifesting with the one. A gentle breeze of spirit has begun. A gentle breeze of spirit has begun. What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? Finding with intelligence, blessings coming through every sense, radiating from one mind. Soul to joy and beauty now are mine. Soul the joy and beauty now are mine. What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life? What is this thing called life?
Thank you, Faith.
Thank you.
I don't know why my system won't let me do that, but apparently it won't. So we'll just have Faith run all the videos from now on. Just add one more thing to her plate that she already isn't doing. I literally just talk and she does everything else. So it's pretty funny that, I need just one more thing from her. Thank you, Faith. All right. So today we are starting our Back to Basics series, which we do every January as a prelude to starting classes. We used to do it September and January. And what I found was it got too old if I did it twice a year. So I'm just doing it in January these days. It's a good start to the start of the year, where we go over the first 4 chapters of the textbooks, Back to Basics, the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. So first, I would like to also say a little bit about Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver. I met her like 20 years ago. She called and wanted to sing at our church, but her fee was like $150. And at that time, we were paying people $25 a service. And so I said to her assistant, we can't do that. And all of a sudden, one day I get a phone call from her. Hi, I'm in town. I need directions to your church. And I'm like, your assistant didn't tell you? She's like, no. But I'm doing this opening at a bookstore. Why don't you come and see if it's worth it to you? I said, okay. So we go down there and I listened to her music and I realized that it was worth it, that I would pay her out of my own pocket instead of having to go to the board to get the money for it. And so we cooked up this service. It was a great service. We sold 35 CDs of the service, which is the most we ever sold. And what happened was she would sing a little something. I would talk on what she just sang. She would sing something based off what I said. And then Lynn would get up and do a little mini sermon. And then she would do a song based off what he said. And, we just kept going through like that throughout the entire service, which was really awesome. And it inspired everybody to buy a CD. So 20 years later, we're still friends. And luckily, like I said, she has provided her music to us. So enjoy Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver's music. It is really awesome. All right. But I want to get back to before the first 4 chapters. I want to talk about, we are one of the pillars, if you will, of New Thought. Now, it's not the same thing as New Age. New Thought means a new thought creates new ideas, and New Thought movement is about a new way of thinking of things, a new way of presenting spiritual ideas. That's what the New Thought movement is all about. And so the 3 pillars are divine science, which we have the original Divine Science Church here in Colorado still. And then I think it's still open. I don't know, after the pandemic, something might have happened, but it's a beautiful old building in kind of the downtownish area, Colfax area of town. And then there's the Unity School of Christianity and Religious Science, which is what we used to call ourselves. We call ourselves now Centers for Spiritual Living because we spent so much time using the non-dairy version of what we were because, we'd have to go, no, we're not Christian Science. No, we're not Scientology. And then, so in order to tell people what we taught, we almost had to do that whole non-dairy version of who we were to get to the point where we could say, this is what we teach. So nowadays, when we say Centers for Spiritual Living, it makes it so much easier to be able to explain what it is that we do. And so the divine science, Unity School of Christianity, which is more Bible-based than we are, and religious science are the three pillars that make up the New Thought movement. Now, Ernest Holmes, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who is our founder, originally created an Institute of Religious Science. And it was basically built on the idea that there were spiritual laws in the universe, and I'll get to that in a minute where he got all of that. But there are spiritual laws in the universe that anyone can use. And so he invited people of all faiths to come and study at the Institute and learn about spiritual laws and then take it back to their faith to increase their awareness of how their, how prayer works and how the spiritual laws work within their own faith. But so many faiths were not open to the ideas that their people brought back. And because so many of his followers really wanted churches, they became Church of Religious Science instead of Institute of Religious Science. Ernest Holmes really didn't like the institution of church, so he fought that a little bit, but his followers decided, and so we have a church now, or a church organization, I should say. But Dr. Ernest Holmes founded this in he started publishing in 1927, but I think he was speaking all the way back to, 19 something. Let me see if I have it in my notes. He was raised in a Christian church. Got kicked out of it a lot, but he was raised in a Christian church. And there he found the writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson. 1919 is when he started working on this. So he had been learning about Ralph Waldo Emerson and the oversoul and the spiritual universe and the circles and all of that. And that's what inspired him to go further into it. And then he found the works of Judge Thomas Troward, who was a Christian judge from England serving in India. And what set him apart from other judges is that he really studied the Indian religion and their culture. And so when he handed down a sentence, he was taking all of that into account. And because of that, they just adored him because they felt like they got a fair shake with him. But what he came across as he was doing that is that there are so many things that are similar in the Christian philosophy as in the Hindu philosophy. And so he began to do writings on spiritual laws in particular. And so Dr. Ernest Holmes came across his writings and got so excited and inspired by it that he began teaching that, lecturing all around the United States. And in this capacity of lecturer, he ran into a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins was working for Mary Baker Eddy of Christian Science at the time. Well, not at the time, but before that. And they had a falling out, and she left Christian Science and started a school for mysticism. So when Dr. Ernest Holmes found her, he found the love of God, because up until then it was all about law. Judge Thomas Troward laid a really good foundation for how spiritual law operates. And then Emma Curtis Hopkins, through mysticism, taught him about the love of God. So that is the genesis of our philosophy. Ernest Holmes, or Dr. Ernest Holmes, taught that all the major religions and all the major spiritual paths all have commonalities. And so what he taught was the commonalities between all of them. He had a great passion to discover and teach the shared principles that are underlying all the religions and the world's spiritual paths. He believed that the universal spiritual principles expressing through these teachings reunite us in the transformational process and healing powers within us and return us to our higher path of destiny. He reminded us to be open at the top because the divine is continuing to unfold more inspiration to us as we evolve. As we are open at the top, we also stand on basic principles. So in other words, when we say open at the top, it doesn't mean that we incorporate into our philosophy all the new philosophies that pop up. It means that We know that we do not have a perfect perception of God, so that perception is always evolving. And as we evolve, we are allowing ourselves to accept more truth. Because I don't know about you, but for me, when I first hear something, a philosophy, it takes me a bit to adjust to it. And then I start feeling like, nope, that's the only truth there can ever be there, And so when when another truth is presented to me, I have a tendency to balk at it. I don't know if that's your truth, but that's my truth. And so when we say we're open at the top, it means that we are open to more interpretation. That's what kind of sets us apart from Christian Science. That, and Christian Science says you cannot interpret the scriptures, that what was written by Mary Baker Eddy and what was written in the Bible is not open to interpretation. It is just, you read it and that's the way it is. And we believe that everything is open to interpretation because we realize that our human perception is not perfect, that it evolves as we grow. And so we do interpret things. We read the Bible metaphysically, for example, instead of taking it as verbatim what God said. And the reason we do that is because if you look at the Bible, if you look at it really closely, you can tell that there were more than one author. If you look at the Adam and Eve story, for example, on one page, you find that they're hiding from God. They're hiding their faces from God. And then like within a couple of pages, you find out that God is all powerful, all knowing, all seeing, and there's no way to hide from God. Noah's Ark is another perfect example of this. On one page, you have the animals came into the ark 2 by 2. And then the next page, right there, like facing page, it says that he gathered the animals 10 of a kind. So you see very clearly that it's not just one person writing this. There was a group of scholars who came and edited the things they didn't want, they took out, and then the things they did want, they put in, and sometimes they put them in a couple of times. And so it'd be a little bit like going to the library and saying every book in here is truth, to say that the Bible is factual, okay? Everything was written 50 years after Jesus died, right? And so it's a little like playing telephone secretary. I know you've played that game, right? And you say something into someone's ear, they pass it along, and by the time it gets to the end, you don't even recognize it. And that's a little bit of what happened with the Bible. And so there was this group of scholars, Jesuit priests, I believe, who spent 20 years looking at every statement in the Bible that was attributed to Jesus. And at the end of the 20 years of study, they voted on what they thought was, and it took 20 years, they thought it was what was real and what wasn't. And so they had these little marbles, and they threw the marbles into the middle of the table. And black meant that Jesus never said that. And then red was, it's possible he said it, but you can't for sure know. And if he said it for sure, there was a white mark, and there were only 7 statements in the entire Bible that they said were for sure statements that Jesus made. And so that's why we don't really teach Bible as such. We teach it very metaphysically. For instance, when Christian Science, for example, says, if you have faith, you don't go for medical intervention, because there's some phrase in the Bible that says, faith is the only thing you need, or whatever. We say that God's power works through the doctors, and we believe as much as it does through prayer, and we believe that in a pill and a prayer. Also, with the Bible, metaphysically, for instance, Jacob means father, okay? And, or Abraham means father, sorry. Abraham means father. And Sarah is nobility. And so they have a son. And let's see if I can get to this here. Oh, it's up here somewhere. And their son is Joy, means joy. The name means joy. And so what happens is God says to Abraham, you must kill your firstborn son. And he says, so he's willing to do that because, he follows God to the T. And as he's about to kill his son, God says, no, it's not necessary. I just needed to know that you were going to be able to do it. So here's the thing. What we believe is that when you marry God the Father and the nobility together, joy is the product. And so when God was asking Abraham to sacrifice his son, what he was saying was sacrifice the ego, right? Keep joy as the principle, but sacrifice the labels, the awards, the accolades, all of that, all the ego-driven things, the things we're attached to with our ego that represent joy to us. And so we keep that principle of joy. So we interpret all of the Bible quotes that same way, because we believe that it is metaphysical, meaning it is beyond the physical realm, the study of what's beyond the physical realm. And so when we talk about God in particular, we are not talking about the same kind of God that the Christians talk about, or even that the Jews talk about. To the Jews, there was a war god who was forever smiting our enemies. And to the Christians is a God love, God of love. But there was all these things that were put in the place of what you had to do in order to receive God's love. For instance, Luke 13:29, I believe it is, says, if you will follow me, you must hate your mother, hate your father, hate your aunt, hate your uncle, And I don't believe in a God like that. I don't believe that God would put those parameters on its love, because I don't think we have to do anything to deserve God's love. I believe that we are made of God, that whenever we talk about God as a he or a she, what we've basically done is we've made God in our own image, instead of recognizing that we are made in the image and likeness of God. And so when I say that quantum physics backs me up, what I'm saying is, when the scientists look at everything, they look at all the molecules and how fast they bump together in the process of creation. So if the molecules are bumping up against each other really fast, there's something really solid like this desk. And about a medium is a human or an animal, and really slowly bumping against each other is water or air or something like that. And then quantum physics talks about an intelligence that knows how to create. And that intelligence, they don't call it a divine intelligence. I do. I think that there is a divine intelligence that actually knows how to create everything. I mean, when you think about it, with the acorn, there's a divine encoding for an oak tree. It knows when to grow, it knows when to blossom, and it knows when to seed without any human intervention whatsoever. Same thing with an embryo in a woman's body. It could care less about the past. It knows nothing of the future, but it has the encoding in it to create a human that grows automatically without human intervention. There's nothing we need to put into it, although our scientists are working on that. But there's nothing that needs to be put into it. It just does its thing. And that's because of the divine encoding. So what I say is that we have a divine encoding that is a divine energy that's responsible for creating worlds, that is constantly waiting for our recognition and an invitation to co-create with it. Even in the apparent absence of love, principle tells us there's nothing but love. Even in the apparent absence of peace, principle says there's nothing but peace. This quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes says it all. This original life is infinite. It is good. It is filled with peace. It is the essence of purity. It is the ultimate of intelligence. It is power. It is law. It is life. It is in us, in that inner sanctuary of our own nature, hidden perhaps from our objective gaze, nestles the seed perfection. Dr. Ernest Holmes was really kind of famous for quoting people without giving them credit. I don't think he meant to. I don't think he ever meant to plagiarize or anything. I just think he got so excited by what he read and translated it into his own stuff that he forgot to say, and this is from. So a friend of mine finally found the quote that he took this from, and it's Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass. And it's different, but it's the same. In this broad earth of ours, amid the measureless grossness and the slag, enclosed and safe within its central hearth, nestles the seed perfection. So that's where Ernest Holmes got that. In that inner sanctuary of our own nature, hidden perhaps from our objective gaze, nestles the seed perfection. And what's important about that is to note that the perfection means health. It means prosperity. It means beauty. It means love. It means life itself. All of this is nestled within us. So I don't believe in a God that lives outside of myself. I believe in a God that is flowing through me and that resides within me, that I can count on to help me see what it sees. It sees perfection. It sees beauty. It sees love. It sees prosperity and abundance. It sees health and wellness. See, I think that we are born with that DNA. There's like a blueprint of perfection in our DNA. And we're born with that perfection. And then something happens to us. I'm not even sure what causes every person's dis-ease or illness. But things happen. And the way back from that, as Dolores Cannon is always talking about, the way back from that is the mind. Because the mind has enough power to be able to overcome and correct any disease or illness. And what I believe that is God's power that flows through us that gives us the ability to heal ourselves through our minds. Dolores Cannon doesn't talk about that. She talks more about our mind and our ability to heal. And I believe that when we experience a dis-ease or an illness, it is a call, kind of a wake-up call, a call to action to remember that God is within us and that has more power than whatever that circumstance is. So when we go back to basics, one of the things we do is we are, for those who have been in this philosophy a long time, we're going back over and deepening into all of the things that we have been taught. Tai Chi masters do only 7 moves their entire life. They deepen into those moves as they go along. And so what we're doing is we're just deepening into it if we've been in this for a while. Isaac, that's right. I finally found it. And so we're deepening into it, those of us who've been in this for a while. Those of us who are new to this philosophy, this is a great way for you to understand what it is our philosophy teaches. It's a great way for you to get a glimpse of the God we believe in, you see, and the spiritual laws and how they operate in the universe, and you can use them. It's not that you can use them, you do use them, but you can use them consciously, you see. Dr. Ernest Holmes said there are laws in the universe that you can use, laws for good in the universe, and you can use them. But I would have edited that a bit and said there are laws for good in the universe and you can use them consciously because we're already using them. It's just that we're not conscious sometimes that we are using them. So I'm going to do a quick here. Let me grab it. I'm not sure where it is. There it is. Our teaching symbol, because I want to talk about the process of creation for a second. We're going to go deeper into this as we go through the month. But I want to get to this right now, just so you have an idea. This is our teaching symbol. And I'm going to first talk about God in this concept. So if you see, there's a circle surrounding it, and that is the unbroken unity of God. There is no end, there is no beginning. There is just that unbroken circle of unity. And even though you can't part out God, for illustration purposes, we have divided God into three parts. The top part is the conscious mind, meaning when we have an intention, when we have a thought of something we want to create, that is in the conscious mind. In that middle section is the collective unconscious. And everything that has ever happened in the world is stored in that collective consciousness. But also what that is the stuff of God. It's its form. In our foundation class, which we're going to be starting here in a bit, in our foundations class, one of the exercises we do is we take Play-Doh and we form it into something. So the conscious mind says, this is what I want to create. The subjective material is the Play-Doh, and the form, or whatever animal or tree or whatever it is that we create, is in that bottom portion, which is the physical form of everything. So that's the way God creates. And if you look at the V, it passes from conscious mind through that subjective mind into form, and then returns back into the nothingness from which it came. Much like your garden works. You plant a seed, it grows, you water it, the sun shines on it, it grows into a flower, say for instance, and at the end of the season, it goes back into the nothingness from which it came. The seed may still remain in the soil if it's perennial, I think it is, or an annual. No, perennial, I think it is. And so it's the same process, no matter what we're creating. It doesn't matter if you're creating love, or you're creating prosperity, or you're creating health. Hi, Fred, Kathy, and Marlene. It just is the way that process works. And so now that I've explained how God works, let me show you how we use it, okay? Because we are that same circle. We are, the unbroken unity of life exists within us. And then the three parts are the conscious mind, which is where we get our ideas from. That's where we decide we want something, whether that be prosperity or a garden or, an animal or anything. Once we have that intention that we have created out of the conscious mind, it runs through that middle part, which is the subjective consciousness. Now, in the individual, how that works is every thought, every action, everything that's ever happened to us is all recorded, kind of like a computer hard drive, has recorded everything that we've experienced and our reactions to it. So it houses all of our reactions. So then we create from that, it passes through that into physical form. So if I'm working on prosperity, for example, I have the idea about prosperity, it passes through the subjective mind and becomes actual money in the bank in that bottom section. And that's that V, it passes through, right? And then goes back into the nothingness from which it came. Now, here are two little things that happen with those intentions, all right? The first one is that we have something in our subjective mind that says, no, you can't have that. You don't deserve it. For instance, maybe I'm working on prosperity and I say I have $10,000 a month income or more. And I'm working on that affirmation. Well, if I have something in my subjective mind that says, oh, it's impossible for you to create $10,000 a month. You have no skills. You have no this. You have no that. You don't deserve it. Your parents never made that kind of money. Whatever it is that's living in that subjective mind bounces it. So it never makes it to physical form. It just bounces back to the nothingness from which it came. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is that subjective mind, that computer hard drive, also is an automatic thing. For instance, when you learned how to drive, for example, every moment that you were in the car, you were constantly thinking about looking in the mirror, putting your foot on the gas, putting your foot on the brake, having to think about turning the wheel. All of that stuff was constant that you had to focus on. And then at some point, it became automatic. So you don't think about those things anymore. Now you can focus on what's happening around you and where you're headed instead of focusing on all of those things. Well, that subjective mind is where all of that automatic is stored. And automatic functions are really good for some things, but for creation, not so much. When you think about everything that's created or that is stored in that subjective mind, if you have something that's going on autopilot, it's creating in your physical reality without any conscious thought on your part whatsoever. And sometimes those things are just not what we want. Like I know somebody who is constantly complaining, and her life just is awful. I mean, and I don't know how to say, she's not part of my church. She's not part of my philosophy. So I don't quite know how to say to her, gosh, this stuff is, you're creating more of that stuff by all the complaining that you do. Because Dr. Ernest Holmes says, what you focus your attention on, you create more of. So if you're constantly complaining and you're constantly haranguing about how awful your life is, then you're creating a physical reality that is that. And then you wonder how it got created. For instance, her latest thing is she now has gallstones, and she went to a hospital and they did an MRI and a CAT scan and they missed it. There's no way you can miss that. You just can't. And so now, 2 months later, she's been diagnosed with these gallstones and they're thinking about taking her gallbladder out. Well, she's gotten into such a habit of complaining that of course they missed it. Of course they did. Because that's just the way her life goes, you see? And so it's really important for us to watch what we're doing, watch what we're thinking, watch what we're saying, watch what we are creating. If we create more of what we focus our attention on, then if our attention is always focused on problems, we're going to create more problems. And if we are focused on what has gone right in our life, then we're going to create a world where things go right. They flow well. And I'm going to talk more about that as we go on through this series. But I just wanted to introduce you to the idea of this is what creation is, because the thing itself is God working through us. It cannot provide to us that which it can't provide through us. And so it's really important that we understand how that subjective mind works and how we're either unconsciously creating. There are spiritual laws in the universe that we can use consciously instead of unconsciously to create the world that we would like to see. So when we're ready and when we're willing, that which wants to come through us, the genius inside of us that wants to be expressed, and if we are available to it, there's no stopping what will happen. You see, God doesn't change up on us. God is in support of the urge within us. That's how I became a minister. Do I have time to share that story real quickly? I was sitting in a class at Mile High Church, and this lady came in and was talking about these classes that were open to the public in the School of Ministry. And I thought, oh, that one sounds great. That one sounds pretty good. Oh, I think I'd like to take that one too. And I get on the phone with the registrar, Denise, and she's busy doing something. And she says, I'll be right with you. And I'm like, okay. And I got busy doing something at my desk, so my left brain was completely out of the way. And she answers the phone, and I go, I want to be a minister. That was the first time I'd ever heard that come out of my mouth or even had an acknowledgement of that thought. So, of course, I was dumbfounded, couldn't speak. And she's going, hello? Are you there? Are you still there? And that's because there was an urge within me for me to become a minister. But the human part of me, the human doingness of me, was not quite ready to hear it. And I call us human doings because we're just here doing the paperwork. Like I was ordained by God when my life began, I believe. I was ordained by God as a minister. But I had to go through the paperwork of it. I had to go through the panels. I had to go through all of that so that the organization could issue me a certificate. So in society, I could be an ordained minister. But I was already ordained, you see. That urge within me that was so powerful that I couldn't resist it any longer came through. And that's what I believe God does. So this week, do me a favor. Well, not do me a favor, but, go along with me here. If you focus your attention on that which you want to create, and you remember that you are made in the image and likeness of God, you remember that you are a co-creator, that there is a power for good in the universe in you, and you can use it consciously. Will you spend the next week focusing on that and see what miracles occur? Will you do that with me? All right, let's have a prayer. I now turn my awareness to the infinite power, the infinite presence of God. To that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful God is. Where I recognize only beauty, only love, only life, only love. There's only one life, one power, one presence. And it's all there ever has been, all there ever will be. And all there is right now. And that's where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that is God within me. God flowing through me. I know that same truth to be so for the team that God has provided me to manage. That we are the agents of God in this life. God flows through us, and we are connected by it, through it, as it. And we are guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through everyone the same, equally. I know that truth to be so for every person who's watching this, either in real time or later on. For there is no place where one leaves off and the other begins. There's only one life, one power, one presence. And we are of it, connected by it, through it, as it. Mitakuyasin, all my brethren, we are related. And so I bless this coming week, because I know that all of the opportunities that show up for us to focus our attention back on our divine inheritance, our divine beingness, letting go of the cares of the human realm to focus on the truth about our life. That we are made in the image and likeness of God, that we are co-creators of God, that we are the power and the presence in our own life. And so I bless this week with all kinds of ahas as they come forward. The beingness of all life shows itself. And so I know this truth to be so for every name that is in the ministry of prayer today, because I know whatever condition they are experiencing, God is the power underneath that pulls us forward into a life that is much better, much more powerful, much greater. I pull back the veil right now, revealing that truth and claiming for them their good. In their name, I call it good and very good, and my heart just fills with gratitude. This is so, to be of service in this way, as I just let this be. And so it is. Amen. Amen. I would normally have Faith sing another song, but number one, we're running behind, and number two, oh goodness, she can't sing. All right, so right now it is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to express gratitude for that which you have already experienced here in the physical form, and for that which you have created in the mind of God, but may not be seeing exactly in the physical realm yet. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to go to www.oasiscsl.org, and there's an offering affirmation about 2/3 down the page, and I'll have you say that with me, and then there's a contribute now button underneath it. So let me talk a little bit about contribute now. We're not in a facility, so you don't have to pay facility rent or utilities or anything like that. What you are contributing to is the vision and mission of Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, which is to heal the world one person at a time. And so as we uplift and inspire our global community in Germany and the UK and the Netherlands, Holland, as we inspire those people, so we inspire the rest of the world and uplift them one person at a time. So that's really what you are contributing to. So please go with me right now, whether that's in real time or later on, to www.oasiscsl.org and say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. All right, hit that contribute now button and that contribute button and help us get to that global community where everyone is uplifted and inspired. It takes money to market that, unfortunately, but it does. All right. So I'm going to try and get through these really fast because I know I'm running late here. We have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners from coast to coast who serve on our ministry of prayer, which is the healing arm of the church, and we call them our God Squad. And so we, when you have a prayer request, for example, if you have one, put it in the comments section. If you don't want it to be public, you can DM Faith, and she'll get it put on our private facing group page on Facebook for our God Squad, and they're the only ones that can see it. But they serve on our God Squad by doing that. Licensed practitioners are also available by appointment for a fee for spiritual guidance. So if you have a pressing issue you would like to discuss with them and get some spiritual guidance, you can look them up on our website or on Facebook and reach out to them, let them know that you would like an appointment, and they will tell you how you can pay for it, whether that's Cash App or Venmo or PayPal or Wise. Each practitioner has their own business, so I don't get involved in how the payment gets made. Anyway, and then they'll reach out to you at the appointed time by video chat. So take advantage of these loving services that they provide for you. And if you would like to, I'm not going to say that anymore. If you would like to be part of our online community, type more in the comments section, and we will add you to our public facing group page on Facebook. So you get information before the rest of the world gets it. All right. Oz is available for what we call our 1 minute miracle. It's a time, not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can share with him whatever condition you are experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. You can reach out to him by video chat. And if he doesn't answer right away, it probably means he's on with someone else. So try back in a little while. All right. I'm going to do the Brooks and Bailey real quick. I'm going to skip over you, Faith, since I don't want you to talk any more than you need to. And I'm also going to skip Angel Renee for today since we're running late. This mala bead necklace here is from Brooks and Bailey. I have an amethyst one, which is $60. But they have all kinds of really cool mala bead necklaces and bracelets. The mala bead necklaces start at $30 and go up. They have 108 beads, which is perfect for doing your affirmations. The Hindus and Buddhists use that to do their mantras. They just slide one bead at a time. You can do the same thing with your affirmations, which I tell you to do 100 times a day. And the bracelets have 50, let's see, it's 108 in the necklace, 54 on the bracelet. So you just do that twice. But you can reach them through Brooks and Bailey 0307 at gmail.com, or on Facebook. They have a Facebook page. All of the proceeds go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue. I try to post anytime they do a booth at any of the events. I try to repost that so you can find them as well. I want to mention Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver's website because we like to support those who support us. And at the end of this series, we are going to, I'm sorry, let me do one thing at a time here. I'm trying to do this fast, so I'm skipping around a little bit. Her website does not allow her to edit it. so she can't put how to pay her. She travels around the country singing, and she has all of her CDs in her the trunk of her car. So you have to reach out to her, figure out which CD you want, reach out to her by email. She'll tell you how to pay for it. And she's really good at making sure you get those CDs, so she'll send them out to you. The next one is Karen Drucker's website, and Karen Drucker has, her website works, and it has all of these CDs. You can buy it by the song, CD, songbook, karaoke files, all of that. So reach out to her. Also, visit ours, oasiscsl.org. We have 2 years of video sermons and multiple years of audio sermons, plus picnics and things like that, photos, where you can see who your spiritual or our spiritual family is. But check that out. We are also on YouTube for the videos and SoundCloud for the audios under S. Tucker. Okay, let me talk real quickly about these classes. I know I'm going to be offering them on Thursday evenings. I'm open to offering them Thursday mornings for those who are in Europe, because I know there's an 8-hour difference. It's going to be $30 a class, a total of $300 because it's 10 weeks. The first 5 classes, you can pay $30 a class. When you reach the halfway mark, we ask you to pay the balance. That does include what we pay to home office to keep a record that you have completed that class. So if you go to another church in another state or whatever, they have the record so that you don't have to repeat it. So I will give you more information on that later when we get closer to it, and then how to pay for it and what day we're going to start and all of that. I just wanted to mention that we're heading in that direction in case you're interested. All right. We're going to close with the video, and then Oz will pray us out.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And I know right now and right here that the blessings of God are in us, as us, moving through us, and creating the world around us. God breathes me, and God breathes you. And I know that God's blessing flow through you this week and always. I give thanks that this is so, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much for being here. I know there's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning, and we're glad you're here with us doing this. Join us next week for the second in the series of Back to Basics, the way it works, at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Faith is laughing at me. I do. I get kind of, by the time we get through the service, I get kind of like, oh, there's too many details. So join us next week, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, where we continue the Back to Basics series. And have a great week. Stay safe, wear a mask, and we'll see you next week. Bye.